So this is my Inferno Tempest Ultra. It's the deck out variant of Inferno Tempest. Instead of using Inferno Tempest with the dynamite to burn your opponent, you're using it to thin out your opponent's deck, so cards like Needleworm can, have a better chance of decking them out. I wish I could have Morphing Jar number 2 in here, but it's currently banned. But to allow me to use Needleworm multiple times, I got Spirit Cretin. So those are the two main combos, along with Grinder and Tempest to thin out my opponent's deck. Tempest and Soul Absorption to gain a lot of life, so it makes it harder for your opponent to kill you. So that means it'll take them longer and they could deck out. So that's important to be able to gain life. The two Necrophases, of course, will cause them to lose. If both are banished at the same time, lose 10 cards. You'll lose 10 cards as well. And it's anytime Necrophase is banished, so you can get the effect off with Ghost Sarcophagus, of course, Tempest. So Lava Golem 3000, 32 monsters in your side field to special summon this to their side field. So when they attack you with this, you take 3000, you can activate Tempest. Or you summon a Battle Fader and then you attack a Battle Fader and attack it in the following turn, not in the same turn, and then play Tempest. Grinder Golem, special summon 2 tokens on your side of the field with 0 attack in attack mode, and you give them Grinder Golem in attack mode. So now you have a token, you have a monster with 0 attack, you can attack Grinder with, attack, take 3000, Inferno Tempest. So these are the typical ways you're going to trigger Tempest's effect. If your opponent just so happens to have a 3000 they attack you with, or something stronger, hey, Tempest. Good for you, right? Battle Fader, hand trap. As you can see, there's not many traps in here. There's only spells and monsters. So a nice little hand trap, a nice little defense to avoid OTKs, so you have a better chance of winning and stalling, and that's important. You want to stall so that way your opponent decks out. Like I said, Needleworm, flip, discard the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. Use Spirit Cretin to recycle it. Because Spirit Cretin's effect, when it's flipped, when this card is sent to the graveyard after being flipped, each player selects one monster from the graveyard and special summon it face up attack position or face down defense. You're going to use the ability to put it face down. Spirit Cretin can use this effect to get another copy of Spirit Cretin. So it creates an infinite defense. Because of when it gets attacked while face down or flip, that means its effect will trigger. Once it goes from the field to graveyard after flipping, then you can bring back another one face down and then infinitely, defend. So there's a little defense combo there. But this is mainly so you can recycle your Needleworm. Because using Needleworm twice, that's 10 cards out your opponent's deck. When your opponent starts playing the game, he will draw 5 and then eventually draw 1 if he goes second. So that's 6 cards. 6 plus 5, that's 11 cards out of his 40 card deck. Most tournament players play 40 cards. Unless they play a 50 or 60 card deck, they typically play 40, the minimum. That's your advantage. So since they're already going to draw about 6 cards, you're going to make them discard 5 more, that's 11. Out of 40, that leaves them with 29 cards. And let's say he has 20 monsters in his deck. Once you play Tempest, you get rid of all his monsters in his main deck. That leaves him with 9 cards. Right? And if both Necrophases are in your deck and they're banished, that's 10 cards together because they do 5 cards each in your opponent's deck, and your opponent only had 9 cards left. You just decked them out. And you just got to live long enough to allow him to gain a turn where he goes to draw but can't draw because there's no cards in his deck, and he'll deck out. You might also get the same effect if you manage to make your opponent run out of cards and then play one day of peace. That might cause him to deck out, but I haven't tried it out. But concept wise, it should cause him to instantly deck out right there and then because he can't draw a card from his deck. Or it will just prevent you from activating it. Either way, it doesn't matter. Your opponent's going to deck out anyway because you'll just end your turn and they'll deck out. Which is the main strategy of this deck. We got Griddle Eagle for defense and offense. in case you're having trouble getting the Inferno Tempest strategy going or the milling strategy going. You know, the fact that it's easy for this deck to give your opponent a 3,000. You can take it back using Grid or Eagle and, you know, turn the duel around. It's good defensively because you can take one of your opponent's problem cards. Let's say your opponent has a Utopia, you set this, he attacks with Utopia, you steal the Utopia. Now you don't have to worry about him using the Utopia's effect to negate you attacking Grinder Girl with a token just to activate Tempest. Like I said before, Soul Absorption, so you can gain life. 500 for every card banished this way, during this turn, so that counts your opponent's cards as well. So once you play Tempest, you can potentially gain over 10,000 life points, you know, relatively easy. Especially if, like, let me see, it's 500 and 10 cards. Yeah, that's 5,000. You can gain 5,000 just by 10 cards being banished. So if 10 of your cards get banished, that's 10. That's 5,000. 10 of your opponents, that's another 5,000. That's 10,000. If you banish 20 of your opponent's monsters, then that right there is 10,000 plus your 10 monsters. That's 25. That's an extra 5,000. So that's 25,000 life points. And if you have 2 Soul Absorptions, and that's 50,000. If you have all 3 on the field, that's 75,000 life points you just gain. What is that? That's like 4 or 5 times, 5 or 6 times your starting life points, which is 8,000. So it's like now your opponent's dealing with like 5 to 6 opponents basically. He has to deal. He better have a very consistent OTK strategy to try to OTK you 6 times, right? Obviously, has an infinite attack combo, right? So that will make it really hard to beat you. And even in time, let's say somehow you don't manage to deck your opponent out or something like that, and he's stalling and whatnot. Well, if you can manage to get enough life points so you have more than him, you'll win in time just because you have more life. So that's another reason for this being in the deck. And if for some reason your opponent is playing Macrocosmo, Dimensional Fissure, Dark Law, whatever, hey, you gain some life points, so it'll make it harder for you to lose because of that. Plus, gaining life, the life points is useful, so that way you can take 3,000, so you can activate Tempest. Dark Door minimizes deck attacks to 1 attack per turn, so even if your opponent's Pendulum Summoning or Swarming the field, this will reduce their attacks to 1. It's continuous, so it's pretty decent. It's a spell, so you don't have to worry about Trapstone, Royal Decree, Jinzo, stuff of that nature, you know. So instead of using Red Screen or Wabaku or something, you can use this. Unlike swords, if you like swords, that's your prerogative. But unlike swords, this stays longer. Your opponent has to get rid of it, not just it get rid of itself like swords, Riverland Light does. But you know, to each their own preference. I choose Dark Door because it's simpler and easier to use, and I only need 1 attack to really hurt my opponent. Hippo Carnival, it's like having extra monsters. Plus it's quick play, so you could bait out MSTs, you know. It's chainable, you know, because it's a quick play, so you could chain it to card effects. You could protect your monsters by using it. Also, the fact that you choose the battle positions of the tokens, you can give your opponent a Lava Golem, then play Hippo token, put 2 of them in a defense mode, 1 in attack mode, attack with the 1 token, and now you can activate, Infernal Tempest once you take 3,000. We got Galaxy Cyclone, targeted face down, spell trap, destroy it. During the main phase, except during the turn this card went to graveyard, banish it, target 1 face-up card, and destroy it. That's very useful. Especially, it's very useful. MST would be good to get rid of stuff like Imperial on Wall and Necro Valley, which will be a weakness to this deck, obviously. But Galaxy Cyclone good for anything else like Vanity's Emptiness, Skill Drain, maybe anything that could potentially hurt you. You might want to use this to get rid of, or anything that's helping your opponent gain advantage. It'd be good to use Galaxy Cyclone. Or let's say you want to pop the Dark Door so you can attack with more monsters. Then you have the option since it'll be in your grave. Necroface, like I said, gets banished. You banish both you and your opponent banish the top 5 cards of your decks. If both of them get banished, then that's 10. So that's very important. I wish I could have 3, but that would be awesome, because then that'd be 15, and that's just the extra 5. Does matter from time to time, but in this particular build, it's not a problem. This deck works pretty well with just 2, but 3 would be better. I prefer it. Gold Circle, it can help you get whatever you need in case you need to get to Tempest. You can just Gold Circle the Tempest, but typically what I do is I use it on Necroface, especially if I have Soul Absorption. I'm like, I play Absorption, Gold Circle, the Necroface, and gain a nice little 5,000 life points in a single turn off of that 2-card combo, and then 2 turns later I'll get Necroface, so that way I can set it, have it go to the grave, then banish it with Tempest as effect, gets effect again, so I can essentially recycle it by playing Gold Circle. And 1 Day of Peace, pretty good because it thins out your opponent's deck as well, of helping you get closer to your cards, but it helps thin out your opponent's deck by 1, so that's important. You're trying to deck your opponent out, so letting him draw is not a problem. And if he searches already, great. If he draws already, great. He's just helping you along. He's hurting himself. And of course, 1 Day of Peace can gain you an extra turn, so it's definitely a good combo card, because you can combo it with stuff like Griddle Eagle. Let's see. Well, yeah, Griddle Eagle. You can, you could play it with Lava Golem if you want, or you just give your opponent Lava Golem, play this, and then just wait a turn, because you're not ready to take 3,000 yet. So you could wait a turn and see what happens. Maybe draw the Tempest, and then it's like, good, now I have Tempest Lava on the field, set and ready to roll. Don't need much when it comes to extra deck, but because you do have Griddle and Fader and whatnot, you could use these. We got Slacker Magician in case you want to use 2 Battle Faders and make a nice little 2100 defender that once per turn, if it would be destroyed by battle, it is not, so that's pretty nice. At 2100, they can survive an attack. And during either player's turn, when a card or an effect is activated that targets this face-up card, you can detach material to negate and destroy the activation of that card, and destroy that card, of course. So that's pretty useful in case somebody's trying to use BLS or Sky Blaster, which is like right there, Sky Blaster, or tries to use Big Eye or something to target your monster, your Slacker Magician, to get it out the way. You can prevent that, which is really, really awesome. Gachi. 2 level 2s, and you can use Needleworms and Spirit Cretins for that. Or if you flip a Needleworm and then flip another Needleworm, then you can overlay and make Gachi. You just got rid of 10 cards, and now you have a 2200 defense. If it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you could detach him as hero instead, so that's pretty good. He can stay on the field long enough, and that defense, that stall, helps you deck out your opponent, so that's important. Leviar, you can use 2 Griddles or a Griddle and a level 3 monster you took from your opponent, and summon Leviar, use Leviar to get back a Griddle, maybe a move. Obviously it would be good to get it removed from place Necroface, especially if you plan to banish it again with Tempest, or somehow some other method that you manage to use to banish it. You'll be able to obviously, and it'd be useful to do that, bring it back and banish it. But you can bring back anything. You can bring back a level 4 lower from your opponent's remove from play zone, and gain something, maybe a Marshmallow or a Spirit Reaper, something that can't die as well, battle or whatnot, would be useful. Moving on, Submersible Carrier Arrow Shark. Requires 2 level 3s. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card and inflict 100 damage to your opponent for each of your banished monsters. So if you manage to play Tempest, then this can deal a good amount of damage. So if you got 10 monsters out of play, you'll deal 1,000 with this. So it's not a lot of damage, but it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. Zen main. If it would be destroyed by a better card effect, you can detach a material. Once per turn during the end phase in which this effect was applied, target one monster on the field. One card on the field and destroy it. That's useful, and it's 2,100. Winged Sky Blaster Castellum requires 2 level 4s. You can manage that by using a flip summoned, not normal summoned, a flip summoned Necroface, and maybe a level 4 monster you stole from your opponent with Griddle Eagle. You can create Sky Blaster Castellum. You don't want to normal summon Necroface, obviously, because you'll get its effect of putting all removed from play cards back into their owner's decks, and you might not want to do that. Unless you actually do, then that depends on the situation, but you typically don't, so be careful. You don't want to accidentally mess up all your hard work. Sky Blaster detach 2 material, target 1 face-up card, spin it back into your opponent's deck, and they shuffle. That's the part of the effect you use the most. Exciton, 2 level 4s. Detach a material. If you have more cards than if you have less cards than your opponent has on his side field and hand combined, destroy all cards on the field except him, and your opponent takes no battle damage and effect damage for the rest of the turn. You can only activate this during your main phase, but you can activate this effect during your opponent's battle phase. And his effect is once per turn, once per chain, not once per turn. Number S39, Utopia the Lightning. You can use a rank 4 Utopia monster you control as material for this summoning. So if you steal somebody's Utopia monster, you can summon this on top of that. And this has the effect that if this card attacks or is attacked, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. When this card battles the opponent's monster while it has a Utopia monster as an XYZ material, during damage calculation, you can detach 2 materials from this card and it becomes a 5,000 during the damage step. So you could deal your opponent a lot more damage and potentially win just with that alone. If you see your opponent's rank 3 monster, during your main phase 2, you can summon this on top of the rank 3 or lower monster that you control as material, and this card gains 200 attack for each material attached to it. If this card attacks with defense position, monster inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. If this card attacked or was attacked after damage calculation, detach a material. So that way it doesn't stay constantly strong. It does get weaker after it attacks or it is attacked. And it's a pretty good monster. Cyber Dragon Infinity. If you manage to take somebody's Cyber Dragon Nova, you can summon this on top of Cyber Dragon Nova. This gains 200 attack for each material it has, and once per turn, you can target 1 face-up attack position monster on the field and attach it to this card as material. And also once per turn during either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated, you can detach a material from this card. Negate the activation if you do destroy it. So that's a really, really good effect. Constellar M7, so you can use a Constellar XYZ monster to summon this. If you do, this card cannot activate its effect during the turn in which you summon it that way. But once per turn, you can detach a material from this card to target one monster on the field or in either player's graveyard and return it to their hand. It's a good way of recycling stuff like Lava Golem or Griddle, Eagle, or Needle Worm, so stuff like that. So it's a pretty good card. Constellar Diamond. You can summon this during your main phase 2 on top of a Teller Knight monster as XYZ material. While this card has XYZ material, the player can send cards from the deck to the graveyard, and any cards that returns from the field to the hand is banished instead. During either player's turn, when an opponent's dark monster activates its effect, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card. Negate the activation. If you do, destroy it. Obviously really good against Light Swarms and Shaddolls and Burning Abyss, things of that nature, because most of those decks mill or they're dark attribute decks, so that's very useful against them. Gaia Dragon Charger. If you steal your opponent's rank 5 or rank 6 XYZ monster, you can summon this on top of that monster, and when this card attacks a defense defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to them. And number 62, Galaxy Ice Prime Photon Dragon. Requires 2 level 8s. The most typical way you'll do this is by stealing back your grinder golem and your lava golems, for example, with griddles. You can overlay and create this big bad boy, and it's a 4,000, 4,000. And if this card attacks or is attacked during damage calculation in either player's turn, you can detach a material from this card once per battle. This card gains attack equal to the combined ranks of all XYZ monsters currently on the field times 200. That counts himself, since he's a rank 8. He gains 1,600 attacks, so that makes him a 5,600, and that's just with him alone on the field. So he becomes a 5,600, but your opponent takes half the battle damage if you do not control a Galaxy Ice Photon Dragon dragon as a XYZ material. Since you only use like Lava Golem, Grinder Golem for this summoning, you're not going to be able to get, to do full damage, but you can deal half the battle damage, which is good enough, because making your monster strong enough to kill somebody else's monster is just as good as, reducing the life points to 0. And its other effects is unnecessary. You could check it up on your own. And Cyber Dragon, Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. In case you steal somebody's Cyber Dragon, or they have Cyber Dragon on the side field for some reason, you can send it together with every other machine type monster that's on the field to special summon Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon for the extra deck. Gets 1,000 attack for each fusion material. That means for Cyber Dragon and every other machine type. So if you send Cyber Dragon 2 machine types, he becomes a 3,000 attacker. And that's just there just in case. You never know. And that's the end of the deck profile.